Ever think about what it would be like to have your team become totally self-sufficient?
Like not needing any outside help.
Yeah, exactly. Like going from needing tons of support to having all the expertise you need right there on your team,
That seems pretty amazing.
doesn't it? And that's exactly what we're diving into today, a story about a team that did just that.
And it's not some small startup. We're talking about a big utility company providing all those essential services, like,
Gas and water.
right, electricity, all that stuff. And they had this huge website redesign project.
So you're thinking they probably hired some expensive firm to do it all for them.
You'd think so, right? But instead of just throwing money at the problem, they decided to build something even more valuable.
I'm intrigued. What was it?
Their team.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's break this down. We've got this utility company facing a pretty common problem, actually.
An aging workforce.
Exactly. And they're worried about all that knowledge and experience walking out the door when people retire.
I can see why they'd be concerned about that.
So what do? What makes their story so different?
Well, what's really interesting is they didn't just try to, patch the gaps. They took a much more strategic approach.
Long-term thinking?
Yeah, they saw this as a chance to really invest in their younger engineers.
Create a sustainable source of talent.
Exactly. They were playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
I like that analogy. So how did they go about actually empowering their team?
Well, they did bring in a design and development firm, a really good one.
Okay, but not just to build a website.
Right, it was more like an apprenticeship program. Their developers got to work directly with these experts, learn all the best practices.
Oh, that's cool. Like they created their own little boot camp.
Yeah, exactly. But with the guidance of seasoned pros.
That must have been intense.
It was. But it went beyond just technical stuff, too. They got to see new ways of thinking about teamwork, project management, even just problem solving.
So it wasn't just about building a website. It was about building a culture.
A culture of continuous learning and improvement.
It makes you think about all those companies that are always chasing the next quick fix. Always looking for that trendy solution.
Right, they just want a Band-Aid.
But this utility company, they seem to understand that real progress takes time and investment.
And that it comes from within, from building up your people.
Creating a foundation for long-term success.
Exactly. And it's something they can apply to any project, any partnership.
So they were essentially building their own talent pipeline, which is incredibly smart, especially these days.
You're telling me. But now I'm thinking, not every organization has the budget to partner with a big fancy firm like that.
Right. So what can we learn from their approach that would work for smaller teams or businesses with limited budgets?
That's a great question. And it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about. You don't need a ton of money to build a culture of learning.
So it's a mindset shift.
It really is. It's about realizing that investing in your team is an investment, not an expense.
It's like that saying, give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach a person to fish and you feed them for a lifetime.
Exactly. You're teaching them to fish for knowledge.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
And even if you can't afford to bring in outside experts, you can still find ways to encourage learning.
Definitely. Mentorship programs, online courses, even just having a culture of sharing what you know.
Those are all great ideas. It's about being creative and resourceful.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about the human side of all this.
How the team felt about it all.
Yeah, we've talked about the strategic benefits, but what about the impact on the individual team members?
Well, from what we can tell, they were really into it. And I think a big part of that was the leadership's attitude.
How so?
They really emphasized being open to learning, even if it meant admitting they didn't have all the answers.
Humility.
Yes.
Yeah,
They modeled the behavior they wanted to see in their team.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
When leaders are willing to show their own vulnerability, it creates a safe space for everyone else to learn and grow.
It really does. It says it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to ask questions.
It's okay to make mistakes.
And it's okay to learn from each other.
So it wasn't just about technical skills. It's about a whole new way of thinking and being.
It was about shifting from a knowing-it-all culture to a learning-it-all culture.
And that can benefit any team, no matter what industry they're in.
Absolutely. It's a journey that anyone can take.
This is all so fascinating. We've got a company facing a potential knowledge gap. And instead of panicking, they turn it into an opportunity for growth.
And transformation.
But we've only scratched the surface. Let's dive deeper into the specifics of how they used this newfound expertise to create a website that really worked for their customers.
This is where it gets really cool. You see, they had this awesome team now, right? You might think, okay, they're just going to build the same old website, but make it look all fancy.
Yeah, just a fresh coat of paint.
Right. But that's not what happened at all. They were really focused on the customer.
So they weren't just thinking about the technical side. They actually thought about the people using the website.
Exactly. It's all about the user experience.
But what does that actually mean? How did they put the customer first?
Think about it. You're a customer. You need to pay your bill or report an outage. Maybe just find some information.
And you just want to get it done quickly.
Right. You don't want to spend hours clicking through menus and trying to figure out where to go.
Ugh, I hate when websites are like that.
We've all been there, so they knew they had to create a website that was super easy to use.
Intuitive.
Yeah.
Easy to navigate.
Exactly. Focused on helping customers do what they needed to do.
Without pulling their hair out.
Haha, exactly. So they had this mantra, do what you need to do and leave as quickly as possible.
I love that. It's like they were trying to design themselves out of a job.
In a way, yeah. They wanted the website to be so good that people wouldn't need to call customer service.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Saves them money and makes customers happier.
Win-win. So let's see, they built up their team, they focused on the customer, and they ended up with this amazing website.
But did it actually work?
Oh, yeah. The results were incredible. Customers loved the new site.
No more complaints about confusing menus.
Right. And remember how they were spending all that money on outside help?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, that basically disappeared. In just a few years, they went from needing constant support to handling everything themselves.
That's incredible. They really achieved self-sufficiency.
They did. But I'm sure there were some challenges along the way.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Did everyone buy into this new approach?
You know, change can be tough,
Hmm.
but it seems like the leadership team was really committed to this vision.
And they communicated it well?
Yeah, they brought people along on the journey, explained why it was important.
So it wasn't just a top-down decision.
Yeah.
They actually got everyone involved.
Exactly. And that's so important for any kind of change. You need to have buy-in from the whole team.
It's about creating a shared understanding and a sense of ownership.
You got it. And that takes time, effort, and a lot of communication.
This is all super inspiring.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, I'm a little skeptical. It sounds almost too good to be true.
I get it. I mean, were there any setbacks? It couldn't have been all smooth sailing.
Surely they hit some roadblocks along the way.
Of course. Every transformation has its challenges. I'm sure there were moments of doubt and frustration.
But they kept going?
They did. They had this vision and they didn't give up.
So it's not about avoiding challenges. It's about having the resilience to push through them.
And that's a lesson we can all apply to our lives.
I love that. It's a reminder that transformation is a journey, not a destination.
And the journey is just as important as the outcome.
So we've talked about how they built their team, how they focused on the customer, and how they achieved amazing results.
But there's one more thing we need to talk about.
The intangible benefits of self-sufficiency.
Yes, there's something really powerful about knowing you can solve your own problems.
It's about taking ownership and control.
Feeling a sense of agency over your own destiny.
And that's something you can't put a price tag on.
It's about confidence and autonomy and the freedom to chart your own course.
That's what makes this story so inspiring. It's not just about a website. It's about a team that transformed themselves.
And in doing so, they unlocked a whole new level of potential.
It's funny. We usually think about self-sufficiency on like a personal level.
Learning to do things for yourself.
Yeah, like cooking or fixing stuff around the house. But this idea of organizational self-sufficiency, it's really interesting.
It's taking that same idea and scaling it up.
Applying it to a whole team or a company, and I think it's becoming more and more important.
Especially in today's world. Things are changing so fast.
You need to be able to adapt.
Solve problems, think creatively.
It's like building an immune system for your organization.
I love that analogy. You're less vulnerable to outside forces when you can handle things internally.
So how can we apply this to our own lives?
Whether we're leaving a team or just working on our own careers.
What are some takeaways from this story?
Well, one of the biggest ones for me is continuous learning.
They didn't just train their team once and call it a day.
It was an ongoing process.
They created a culture where learning was encouraged and rewarded. But how do you actually do that? How do you build that kind of culture?
It starts with you.
With me.
Yeah, with your own attitude. Are you curious? Are you always trying to learn new things?
I try to be.
And are you sharing what you learn with others?
That's important.
It is, because it can create a ripple effect.
So you're saying you don't have to be a CEO to make a difference?
Not at all. You can start small.
Like what kinds of things?
Start a book club. Share an interesting article. Suggest an online course.
Little things can make a big difference.
They really can. But let's be real. Not everyone's going to be excited about all this learning stuff.
Some people resist change.
And that's okay. You just have to focus on the why.
Why is this important? What are the benefits?
Exactly. Connect the dots. Show people how learning can help them grow.
Help them advance in their careers.
Make their work more fulfilling.
And sometimes it's about reframing how we think about learning.
It doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun.
Okay, so we've talked about the culture side of things.
Hmm.
But what about the practical benefits of self-sufficiency?
Like the cost savings.
Yeah, and anything else?
Well, think about speed. When you have the skills in-house, you can move much faster.
You're not waiting on someone else.
And you have more control. You're not relying on a third party who might not fully understand your needs.
So it's about being in the driver's seat.
It is. But is there a downside to self-sufficiency?
That's a good question. Are there any risks?
Well, it's important to remember that self-sufficiency doesn't mean isolation.
You still need to collaborate.
You still need to build partnerships
It's about choosing the right partners for the right reasons.
and knowing when to bring in outside expertise.
So it's like leveling up in a video game. You gain new skills, but you also know when to call for backup.
Aha, I like that. It's about knowing your strengths and your limitations.
And being open to learning from others.
Always learning,
Yeah.
always growing,
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored what it means to be self-sufficient.
both as individuals and as organizations.
We've heard an incredible story about a company that transformed itself.
And we've talked about how we can apply these lessons to our own lives.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling really inspired.
Me too. It's amazing what's possible when we invest in ourselves and our teams.
When we embrace continuous learning.
And when we have the courage to take ownership of our own future.
So to all our listeners out there, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for self-sufficiency.
You've got this.